Sky is so high, if you don't know how to fly, angel is here to make you fly. Sky is so high, if you don't know how to fly, angel is here to make you fly. Here we go.
Okay, so we are on the third module, management skill,
Here we go.
leadership.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, we are on page number 14, towards the end. Yeah, we start from leader types.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Would you like to read a little bit for us, Akanksha?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Autocratic leader. Leader has absolute power and listen to no one else. Director. Bureaucratic leader
Dictator.
does everything by look, ensuring the staff follow all procedure exactly. Transformational leader is a true leader and leads to inspire their employee and them. Laissez-faire leader leaves their employees alone to decide for themselves. They are usually surrounded by the skillful team employee. Uh, Democratic leader invite other employee and team member to come up with decision and relies on an agreement between everyone of what is best.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So now, yesterday, thank you. Akanksha, can you also switch on your camera, please? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so yesterday we discussed about what a leader should do, who is a leader, the different definitions of leader, right? So today we'll get into what are the different types of leaderships. Okay, so they've described a few, which is autocratic, bureaucratic, transformational leader, laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is a French word, so well, it is used often in English as well. Okay, then is democratic. So autocratic is someone who gives no responsibility to the employees or his team. He wants to take all decisions and he doesn't listen to any kind of inputs from his employees. So he is like the sole decision maker. So usually in this kind of working environment, the employees will not enjoy working because their inputs or their ideas are never considered, right? So he's more like a dictator who will not listen to anybody. He or she will only do what they like according to their principles and their beliefs. Then is bureaucratic leader. Bureaucrat, he is one who follows everything to the T. Like whatever is written in the book, he or she will just follow that. They will not bring in new ideas. It's good and bad both, okay? Because sometimes like certain professions you really have to follow the book. For someone like who's a pilot, whose job is to fly and handle that complicated machinery, he cannot take his own decision saying, no, I'm not going to follow this procedure, let me do this, because then it's a hazard for everybody, right? So in certain kinds of jobs, you have to follow everything what is written in the book. So in such roles, a bureaucratic leader is a good leadership. Okay. Then his transformational leader is a true leader and leads to inspire their employees and team. So somebody who leads by example basically, and they have good ideas and they'll just bring in new things to the job. Then his laissez-faire leader leaves the employees alone to decide for themselves. They are usually surrounded by skillful. So what is a laissez-faire leader is one who gives entire authority to the employees or his team. It's good sometimes, but if he does not have a skillful team, it can be a mess. So usually these kind of leaders are usually surrounded by employees who are really good at their work and they are very skillful. Okay, so that is very important for if somebody is following this kind of leadership. Then his democratic leader invites other employees and team members to come up with decisions and relies on an agreement between everyone of what is best. So basically, this is like they'll take everybody's inputs and then everybody decides what is the best decision to be made. that can be by voting or maybe brainstorming, whatever ways they follow. But everybody's ideas are listened, and everybody is a part of the decision making here in the democratic leadership. Then is agentic leadership, derives from the term agency. This leadership style is generally found in the business field by a person who is in control of subordinates. This person demonstrates assertiveness, competitiveness, independence, courageousness, and is a masterful in achieving their task in hand. So, agentic leadership is another kind of leadership where the leader is very assertive about what has to be done, is very competitive. He wants to compete with everybody, with his competitors in the market, and he wants to make sure everything is done on time, and is also courageous to take a lot of decisions that are needed. Like a bureaucratic leader will probably not take decisions because they are so used to following everything by the book, right? But an agentic leader is courageous enough to take his decisions and make new policies when he has to. Types of leadership styles. So now we'll just go read through it. We've discussed it already, but just if we've missed any point. Okay, anybody wants to read?
Ma'am, may I?
Just say your name once.
Sharon.
Sharon, go ahead, please.
Autocratic leadership. Autocratic leadership is an extreme form of transactional leadership where leader has absolute power over his or her employees or team. Employees and team members have little opportunity for making suggestions, even if this would be in the team or organization's interest. Most people tend to resent being treated like this. Because of this, autocratic leadership usually leads to high level of absenteeism and staff turnover. For some routine and unskilled jobs, this style can remain effective where the advantages of control outweigh the disadvantages.
Okay, so basically what we've discussed here, the leader does not take any inputs from the team, and even if it may result in positive things for the organization, the leader is not interested in anybody's ideas. Okay, and what happens in a leadership like this is usually people don't want to come to work, they don't feel good working for an organization like that, and so usually there are a lot of people like who will not turn up for the duty and all that. Okay, because they don't enjoy working where their ideas are not considered at all. Okay, go ahead, Sharon. You can read the next paragraph as well.
Democratic leadership or participative leadership. Although a democratic leader will make the final decision, he or she invites other members of the team to contribute to the decision-making process. This not only increases job satisfaction, but involving employees or team members in what's going on, but it also helps to develop people skills. Employees and team members feel in control of their own destiny, such as the promotion they desire, and so are motivated to work hard by more than just a financial reward. As participation takes time, this approach can take more time, but often the end result is better. The approach can be more suitable where team working is essential and quality is more important than speed to market or productivity.
Okay, thank you. So then they're talking about democratic leadership, which we already discussed, is where the leader welcomes ideas from his team and they all make a decision based on what is best for everybody. Though the last decision is the leader's decision. Okay, he has the authority to take the decision, but everybody's input is considered. So people are usually satisfied in such kind of a job because they feel that their ideas count and they are considered. Okay, and they also have more job satisfaction. And these kind of approaches are more suitable for working is essential, where the quality of the work is more important than the timeline, basically. Okay, where they need really good quality work. In conditions like that, this leadership is usually very beneficial. Then is laissez-faire leadership. Tiana, would you like to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, go ahead.
This French phrase means leave it be. and is used to describe a leader who leaves his or her colleagues to get on with their work. It can be effective if the leader monitors what is being achieved by communicates this back to his or her team regularly. Most often, laissez-faire leadership works for a team in which the individuals are very experienced and skilled self-starters. Unfortunately, it can also refer to situations where the manager are not exerted sufficient control.
Okay, perfect. So now laissez-faire leadership, like they've given the translation in English, which is leave it be. So they let the employees be, they let them work according to their own uh, beliefs or their own principles or the way of working. They let them do that. But this can be effective only if there's a proper communication between the team and the leader. If the leader just lets them be and he's not checking continuously from time to time if the progress is good, if the work is good, then this can be a mess by the end because everybody is doing what they want to do, right? So the leader's responsibility here is with to check everything from time to time, okay, and they have to communicate. The leader has to communicate, this is good, this is bad, so that kind of communication has to be there. Leave it be doesn't mean that the leader just lets them be forever, okay, so there has to be some but control, but the control usually is very less, okay. He is still the leader of the team, but he will let them work as per their own comfort. And usually, for this kind of leadership to be beneficial, you have to have good workers, good, skillful people around you. Okay, go ahead. Tiana, you can read another paragraph. Your microphone is off, I think.
Bureaucratic
Okay.
leadership.
Yeah.
Bureaucratic leadership works by the book, ensuring, oh ma'am, I missed it.
Okay, don't worry. I'll read it from here. Are you reading from the screen?
Yes, I
Did you
don't
get?
have that module.
Okay. 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 Can you see it now?
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Bureaucratic leadership. Bureaucratic leaders work by the book, ensuring that their staff follow procedures exactly. This is very appropriate style for work involving serious safety risks, such as working with machinery with toxic substances or heights, or where large sums of money are involved, such as cash handling.
Okay. So then is bureaucratic leadership. We already said that is a leader where he or she follows everything that is written in their manual or their book, the procedures that their standard operating procedures, whatever they are supposed to follow. This kind of a leader follows everything as per the written rules and regulations. Well, this kind of leadership can be good for somebody who's dealing with machinery, like we already spoke about, especially like pilots or people who are working in these factories where they have to handle heavy machinery, or even sometimes drivers, you can say they have to be very careful so they have to follow rules, okay. And people in banks, suppose they are handling a huge amounts of money, right? And if they come up with their own ways of doing certain things, and if that doesn't work, it can be a mess by the end, and they might end up losing a large amount of cash, right? Misplacing it. So in professions like this, it is very important that you lead exactly, you do what is written. As a crew, suppose we take an example, you are there for safety and service both, right? So when it comes to safety, you have to follow what you are taught, how to use the equipment. Suppose you have to use the oxygen bottle, or you have to use, there's a fire, you have to use the firefighting equipment. So you cannot come up with your own ways to use those equipment, right? Because this is really of, and why are you trained is because in that pressure, in that stressful situation, you know what to do. Here you cannot do, no, this is what it was written, but let me just try this. You don't have the time to do that, you do, and it is not going to work, right? But when it comes to service, that is where you can put in your own personal effect, okay. Okay, so now we will talk about motivation. Uh, Manushri, would you like to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Motivation. Motivation is the activation or energization of goal oriented behavior. Motivation may be intrinsic or
Intrinsic.
extrinsic. The term is generally used for humans, but theoretically, it can also be used to describe the causes for animal behavior as well. This article refers to human motivation. According to various theories, motivation may be rooted in the basic need to minimize physical pain and maximize pleasure, or it may include specific needs such as eating and resting, or a desired object, hobby, goal, state of being, ideal, or it may be attribute to less apparent reasons such as altruism, morality, or avoiding mortality.
Okay. So,
Personally,
personality. Okay, you can stop. Okay, we'll just discuss this first. So, what is motivation? Motivation, they say, is activation or energization of goal-oriented behavior. So, when you have a goal and you want to work, you feel that energy to work towards it. You feel compelled that you want to do this. That is motivation. So, motivation can be two types. It can be intrinsic or extrinsic. So, what is intrinsic motivation? Is something where you are not motivated because of external rewards like money or maybe a medal. Okay, it's that is you have some internal satisfaction when you do that task. That is intrinsic. When you really have that, when you're not bothered about, or you don't do a task because there is money involved, or there's pressure, because of pressure you have to finish a task, but you just want to do it. So that is intrinsic motivation. Okay, did you understand that? And what is extrinsic motivation? Extrinsic motivation is when you're motivated, suppose on a job, you're motivated because it gives you money, you get salary out of it, or probably you like that your boss praises you, or somebody, an athlete does what he does is for a medal, right? So that is extrinsic, when there's an outside factor acting as a motivator. But when it is an internal, suppose satisfaction, if somebody is an athlete because he enjoys doing what he is doing, so that is intrinsic motivation. Okay. Okay, then personality. So there are certain points that we will discuss. Don't compare your life to others. You have no idea what their journey is all about. Don't have negative thoughts or things you cannot control. Instead, invest your energy in the positive present moment. Don't overdo, keep your limits. Don't take yourself so seriously. No one else does. Don't waste your precious energy on gossip. Dream more while you are awake. So there are certain things that they are telling you as a personality. What are the changes that you can bring in your personality? Like, you don't compare yourself to someone is very important. It is easy said than done, because we often compare ourselves. We see our friend who's really good at something and we feel, I can't do it. Okay, but the thing is, we don't know the struggle that she's gone through to reach where she is. We see all these famous people and like really successful people, and we just think, I wish I was there, right? But nobody sees the struggle or the work that they've put into to reach where they are today, right? So don't compare. Everybody is living their own journey. If somebody says at 25 you need to have a job, that is not a norm that everybody has to follow. Some people might start working at 20, some people might only start working at 30. So everybody is living their own journey, but set a goal for yourself. Okay, don't have negative thoughts or things you cannot control. We've spoken about this earlier. The negative thoughts will not help you. If nothing helps, positive, even if thinking is not doing anything, just think positive, because it'll just help you motivate. Okay, it'll just get you somewhere. And negative thoughts will always bring you down. Instead, invest your energy in the positive present moment, right? Don't overdo, keep your limits, don't take yourself so seriously because nobody else does. Okay? So these are very self-explanatory points. Don't waste your precious energy on gossip. This is very important because gossip is nothing but a waste of time and energy, which can be used for better things. Dream more while you're awake. Okay, so this is very important. You need to dream what you want to be and work on it. Dreaming is not enough. You have to work towards your goal, right? Uh, I have to say this again and again. People, please, I want your cameras to be switched on. Everybody's cameras, please. Thank you. Please don't push me to say this again and again. It is just a norm that everybody follows. I should keep my camera on and you all also keep your cameras on. Okay? Then 7 rules of motivation. Okay, who's going to read this? Any volunteers? Who's this? Can you please say your name? Sakshi? Okay, one by one we'll do that. Okay, Sakshi, you go ahead first, and then Sky, you can go next.
7 rules of motivation. First, set a major goal but follow a path. The path has many goals that go in many directions. When you learn to succeed at many goals, you will be motivated to challenge grand goals.
Okay, so let me just explain this, then you read the next point, okay? Okay, so first they're saying, what are the 7 rules of motivation they are discussing? Set a major goal, but follow a path. So you have one main goal. Suppose I want to be a cabin crew, okay? But in this journey, you have to have several small goals. Suppose I will improve my communication. I will read more. I will watch more English movies maybe, or Hindi movies if I want to improve my Hindi. I will learn one word every day. So these skills, then you work on next skills. So these are all small goals that help you build a path towards your main goal. So one good goal, you should always have one big goal, but then on the way you should always have many goals, and you keep achieving that, and that kind of motivates you to go further. Okay, so give yourself small goals, and when you achieve those goals, you feel good, you feel motivated. Okay, go ahead, Sakshi.
Second, finish what you start. A half-finished project is of no use to anyone. Quitting is a habit. Develop the habit of finishing
Motivated projects. Okay, finish what you start. So okay, we start. What happens? This happens to almost like everybody, I think, or to a lot of people. When we start something new, we are very motivated and we are very excited and we are very thrilled to do something new. But after a few days down the line, we kind of lose interest in that, right? So we just let it go. We just stop there. We quit. But that's not a good habit. So you should, whatever you've started, finish that, even if it takes you extra effort and you have to really work towards it. Make it a habit of finishing what you've started. Once it becomes a habit, you will not quit. You will push yourself extra. So this is very, very important. Okay. Go ahead.
Socialize with others of similar interest. Mutual support is motivating. We will develop the attitudes of our 5 best friends. If they are losers, we will be a loser. If they are winners, we will be a winner. To be a cowboy, we must associate with cowboys.
Cowboys. Okay. So socialize with others of the similar interest. So we always had heard company matters, So this is very true. This is what they're trying to tell you here, is that if you want to achieve a certain goal, try and meet more people who have similar thinking, people who probably are working towards the same goal. Okay, so this helps. This helps you in working harder, and when you see others, others working towards the same goal, then you feel more motivated. Okay, and if you have people who are completely of a different mindset, and suppose you really want to work towards getting a job or excelling at your work or excelling at school, and you have friends who are completely opposite. who just want to have fun and who only want to party and who just don't want to study. So they will kind of bring you down because you will get tempted to do that, all that, because that is fun, right? But you should, if you are occupied, if you are surrounded by people who also want to work towards the same goal, then it kind of motivates you to push yourself even harder and work harder. Okay? So that's how company matters.
Fourth, learn how to learn. Dependency on others for knowledge supports the habit of procrastination. Man has the ability to learn without instructors. In fact, when we learn the art of self-education, we will find, if not create, opportunity to find success beyond our wildest dreams.
Okay, so this is also another point which is very important, I think. You have to learn, which means you have to have the ability to self-learn. And it says humans are born with that, they are born with that capability of learning themselves. We do not need instructors for everything. And this is what I've told you even yesterday. I told the same thing, that this is only a 2 hour session, right? But in your free time, you have to put in time and energy for yourself to learn things that is more than just one class, right? So you have to put in your time to learn things on your own. And this should be a habit, not only to get a job, but if you make this a habit in your life, you will excel at a lot of things. Okay? Because you don't need instructors for everything. So you have to learn to self-learn, basically, just to learn by yourself. Okay? Go ahead.
Fifth, harmonize natural talent with the interest that motivates. Natural talent creates motivation, motivation creates persistence, and persistence gets the job done.
Okay, harmonize natural talent with interest that motivates. Natural talent creates motivation. Okay, see, suppose if you have a talent for something and you have an interest in something, then you automatically will feel motivated to do that, right? If somebody enjoys going to exercising and somebody enjoys going to the gym, then they will just feel motivated to go to the gym every day. But somebody who doesn't enjoy that will just feel like they've been dragging their bodies to go to the gym, right? So if somebody just has that, it has already developed, or they already have an interest towards an activity, that is a motivation in itself. So then you don't have to push yourself so hard, okay? Because there's already that sense of interest in that activity, okay? Go ahead.
Sixth, increase knowledge of subjects that inspire. The more we know about a subject, the more we want to learn about it. A self-propelled upward spiral develops.
Okay, so this is again, if you're interested in any topic, suppose you like airplanes or you like ships or you like cars, okay? And especially this is so true for today's time and age, because you have a lot of things available where you can self-learn, right? And the more you read about something that you like, the more you would want to learn. You learn something and you just feel more interested in reading and getting to know about that. So if somebody is really interested in cars and they start reading about it, they will feel all the more inspired to gain more knowledge. Okay? So start making that a practice of increasing your knowledge about what are your interests. Go ahead. Sakshi, your microphone is off, I think. Sorry. Yeah.
Take risk. Failure and bouncing back are elements of motivation. Failure is a learning tool. No one has ever succeeded at anything worthwhile without a string of failures.
Okay. So it is very important to take risks in life. Somebody who plays very safe every time does not achieve a lot in life. Okay. All these big personalities that we know today, big businessmen, they've taken risks when they were small, right? And that is why they've reached where they are right now. And if you always want to be safe, no, I don't want to spend so much of money in this business because what if I lose all the money? So then you will never make big in life, right? So you have to take certain, even if it's just small risks, you have to take small risks. You can never be, today you think, oh no, I think, I'm doing this job, let me continue with this job because I know what I'm doing. I'm comfortable doing this. And if I continue doing that, probably I will not grow as much as I would grow by probably finding out new jobs or finding out new career options, right? So if you're just not taking risks at all, your life will become stagnant. You will not grow, whether that's personally, taking risks personally or professionally, either ways. Okay, so you have to measure the risks, but take risks. Okay, don't always be like, no, I just want to play safe. You have to be safe to a certain extent, but those little risks on the way, they are also important. Okay, so that was a module 4. And does anybody have any questions? No one? Okay. Another thing I want you all to do is see when we are reading all this and there are certain words that you feel you don't understand. I want you all to just make like a notebook where you put in all these words and you find out the meaning and write the meaning. Okay, meaning you can find from Google. Okay, so this kind of, even if you learn one word every day, in a week you've learned 7 new words. So for the next week, try and use these words when you are talking with people. Just try and use these words. You might make mistakes, but it will help you immensely. Okay, because you are learning one new word every day. So if there's any word that you feel you don't understand, pen it down, look for the meaning, and in the next week or 2 weeks or a month, try using those words in a sentence. Okay, this is a very good practice if you want to improve your language, any language, be it English, Hindi, whatever language you want to work on, do that for that. Okay, fine. Manushri, are you sleepy? No? You sure? Okay. So then we will read, now we will discuss our 4th module, which is time management. Uzair, would you like to read?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, miss.
Okay, go ahead. Do you have the module?
Yes. Time management.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, I think there's a lot of noise in your background. I think it's...
Can I read?
Yeah, just move the mic away, little away from your mouth. Yeah, go ahead. Now it's better. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
What is the importance of time? Time is one of the most contracting in the world. One you lost your
Costliest.
can
One of the costliest.
one of the costliest thing in the world. One you lost you cannot get it back. Time and tide never wait for anybody. Time is life and money. If you waste your time, you are wasting your life and money. A street beggar or the president of United States the same equal moment of time of 24 hours. Ill,
Irrespective.
Irrespective of your cash credit list, fuel, candle, as or any
Criteria.
citizen people get equal quantity of time. The
Okay.
person who wins is the person who properly until it properly
Utilizes.
utilizes its time like chant, sleep, cross your finger time. Sleep is always move forward and does not move backward. Time runs fast when you have fun and it ends when you are Montes,
Mundane.
Mundane.
Okay. So what is the importance of time? So they are saying what we're discussing here is that how important time is. Uzair, can you switch off your microphone now?
Okay, miss.
Okay, I can do it for you. Okay. So time once lost cannot be brought back, right? You can get money, you can bring back your health if you exercise, if you eat healthy, all those things you can get back. But time can never be brought back. Okay, so that is why time is one of the costliest thing. Time and tide never wait for anyone. Time in life and money. Time is life and money. If you waste your time, you are wasting your life and money. So time is money basically. Okay, if you're just wasting time watching TV or just being on the internet watching funny videos for 2 hours or 3 hours, that is a waste of time. Okay, and this time probably if put in for the right kind of activities, it would it is almost like money because you're working towards your goal. Eventually you are earning more, or you're growing in your career, or you're more satisfied in your life. So time is very, it has to be utilized in a good way. Like sand slips through your fingers, time slips, it always moves forward and does not move backward. Time runs fast when you have fun, and it drags when you are mundane. So when you're doing a fun activity, you always feel, oh, that was so little time. And when you're doing a boring activity or a dull activity, you just feel like, oh, like time is literally dragging, though it's the same time, right? But when you're doing something of your interest, you just feel time flying by quicker. Okay, Sky, sorry, I forgot you were in line to read, right? Sorry. So you can go ahead and read now.
What happens if you do not stick on your time? If you do not keep up the time, it creates lot of problems. An employee coming always late may lose his job. A student always coming late to the school may lose the lessons and may fail in his exams. If a chief guest coming late not only makes the function late but gives troubles to others. Just imagine the day in which we got up very late. Everything we have to do hastily. Hastily swallowing food may lead to indigestion. We may miss a bus, train, etc. And also fine will be put into a lot of tension and stress. Suppose you are the cashier of a bank. If the locker key is with you and you are coming late to the bank, just imagine the attitude of the customers. If we manage our time properly, we can avoid all these problems. The Pareto principle of 80-20 rule argues that 80% of the unfocused effort generates only 20% of results. The remaining 80% of the results are achieved with only 20% of the effort. While, while the ratio need not always 80-20, for example, suppose a bank would like to get a deposit of 1 lakh instead of contacting 80 people with rupees 1250 per head. It is better for the bank to get 20 people who can afford a deposit of 5,000. So instead of spending days in a frenzy of activity which achieve very little, we must concentrate on the right things which can achieve more.
Okay. So, what happens when you are late? Suppose you have to go to school, and one day you just wake up late. You're stressed out. You have no time to eat. You have no time to get ready. So you're just running around, right? And when you're running around, you kind of probably you forget things that you were supposed to do. Probably you forget a notebook or a book that you are supposed to carry to your school, right? So whenever you don't manage time properly, when you're late, then you miss on opportunities. Suppose if you're late for an interview, the interviewer might say, okay, now you're too late, right? So you can miss an opportunity. If you're late to a class, you can miss the lesson. So we see here, you don't have an exam today, but the thing is, what is being taught today, you will miss on that. So it is your responsibility as an individual to turn up on time for everything, for your class, for your job, especially the kind of job you're looking forward to. In aviation, you have to be very punctual. Okay, because a flight cannot be delayed because one crew was late, right? And or even if you're a ground staff, you cannot be late to a duty, because then if you are late, your customers are will obviously be more furious. So it will be more stressful for you. So you are creating a chain of stress for yourself by being late. Okay. They've discussed another principle here, Pareto principle, which is 80-20 rule. They call it the 80-20 rule. They say if you're more focused, your 80% of work will be done with only 20% time if you're focused only for that 20% of work. Okay. So 80% of your work will be done with only that. So imagine if you focus on something and do everything on time, most of your work is done with less stress. Okay. Suppose a bank would like to get a deposit of 1 lakh. Instead of concentrating on 80 people, you rather concentrate on, say, 40 or 20 people who want to deposit more money. It saves your time and energy. There's less stress. You contact less people. You work smarter. So it is very important to work smart, not only to work hard, right? How much your time costs? Who wants to read?
Can I read, ma'am?
Who's this?
This is Mahir.
Mahir, go ahead, please.
How much your time cost? Have you ever calculated how much your time cost? You will be astonished to see that your time is valuable. Let us find formulae by which you can find the cost per hour.
Okay.
If you work for an organization, calculate how much you cost it by the way of salaries, perks, house rent, convenience, and other facilities, etc. Each year, if you are self-employed, work the annual running cost of your business. To the figure, add a guesstimate of the amount of profit you should generate by your activity. If you work normal hours, you will have approximately 200 productive days each year. If you work 7.5 hours each day, this equates to 1,500 hours in a year. From these figures, calculate an hourly rate. This should give a reasonable estimate of how much your time is worth. This may be a surprisingly large amount.
Okay. So basically, this is just a formula they've tried to calculate. Like if you're working for an organization, you calculate all your perks that you're supposedly get as per your job, probably medical insurance, or you get travel allowance, or you get vacation allowance, or you get house rent allowance. So you calculate all this, and then you divide how much your time is, your 1 hour of work, how much does it cost? And usually you will be surprised when you find out the results and probably this helps you understand that 1 hour that you're wasting in, probably you can put that to work. Okay, so this is just kind of an exercise that they're trying to help you understand how important your 1 hour of the day is. Okay, so this is just the formula that is they've given. You don't have to memorize this formula. What are your time wasters? So what are your time wasters? Excessive TV watching, excessive sleep, watching long matches, gossips, junk mails, and unnecessary telephone calls. These are few examples that they've given. I want all of you, one by one, to tell me one time waster that you all have, that you waste your time. Okay, we'll start. Okay, I'll ask one by one. Think of one activity that you think you do too much and you waste a lot of time on that. Let me get the list out. Okay. Adil AG is missing, has probably logged in and is not there. Then is Aryan Tambe.
Playing too much games.
Playing too much games. Is that playing like video games on your phone, or are those? Okay, yes. Then that is a waste of time. Mostly, not always, but mostly. If you overdo it, okay. Then Abhimanyu.
Playing mobile games.
Okay, same. Akanksha.
Watching a TV.
Watching too much TV. Okay. Angom.
Playing always with my niece and nephew.
Okay, yes. Well, too much maybe not time, but that's not a waste of time. You're spending time with your loved ones. Okay. Then we have two from the center. I think one is Sony. Okay, you waste. Well, this is the latest binge watching is a waste of time. A lot of people are facing these days, especially after COVID, right? Then there's another one who's joined in from the center's system. I cannot see the name. Okay, I think that is Nargis. Sorry. So then Dwaja. Dwaja is not there. Diksha.
Ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, Dwaja. Can you tell us one of your activities that you spend when you waste time on?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you there?
Using mobile phone.
Okay. Just generally using and browsing. Okay, then, okay. Switch off your microphone now. Diksha? Okay, we'll just go quickly, okay? Leku,
Watching more web series, ma'am.
web series, okay. Mahir?
I've gone some for some work, and the work is not done. That will be a time waste for me.
No, this is a time waste that could happen, okay? This is not something that you do in a daily
Ma'am,
basis.
I have experienced that. That's why I'm telling.
Yeah, but this is like once in a, it happens sometimes. But what is on a daily basis, what is something that you waste your time on?
Netflix.
Netflix, okay. Then is Manushri?
I'm watching Instagram reels.
Yes, another one. Very, very famous. Priyanka?
Ma'am, watching social media more.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Rahim?
Social networking, man.
Yes. Sachin?
Ma'am, video games. Playing video games.
Playing video games for hours, not sleeping on time. Right?
Yeah.
Sakshi?
I'm using mobile, just scrolling on Instagram.
Okay. And Shahas? Shahas. I don't know how to
Reading
pronounce
manga all day, every day.
What is that?
Manga, reading manga.
Reading
Japanese comics.
Oh, okay. You read that
Yeah,
for hours.
all day, every day.
Sharon?
Social media, ma'am.
Okay. Sky?
Same for me, social media.
Social media. Sneha?
Social media, ma'am.
Okay. Sri Mol KP?
Watching web series, ma'am.
Okay. Shruti?
TV.
Okay. Tiana?
Watching funny videos.
Funny videos. Okay. Uzair?
TV.
Okay. Vipin?
Video game, ma'am.
Video game. Okay. So these are few things, especially social media, web series. These are things that all of us are guilty of spending a lot of time on. It's good for recreational activities. Sometimes you have to do it, but we need to decide how much time is good and how much time is just too much, right? So you have to decide. Why I told everybody to say one activity that they are guilty of spending too much time on is because sometimes you don't realize, but when you hear the other person say, oh, I spend too much of time on video games, then you realize, oh, I also do that, right? So these are certain things that we all are guilty of. Nobody can say, no, I don't waste my time at all. There will be probably 1% of people who can say that, okay? So then now we know what we spend a lot of time on. Probably we'll have to reduce our time on these activities, okay? Then who wants to read? Vipin, can you read for me from now? Vipin, are you there?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, I don't have the module. I will read it from the screen.
Is that comfortable for you?
Not much more.
Okay, just read a small line if you can, otherwise we change then.
From where?
From Socrates was very cautious about using his time.
Okay. Socrates was very cautious about using his time. One day a person came to
him
and said, I want to talk about your friend something. Socrates said, answer my 3 questions, then you can tell me.
Okay.
First question. If the news true, I'm not sure. I heard from outside, he replied. Second question. Is the news good?
Good?
No. Third, is the news is useful to me? No. Socrates says, if the news is not true, good or useful, I do not want to hear it. The absence of personal time management is characterized by last minute rushes to meet deadlines. Meetings which are either double booked or achieve.
Meetings which are either double booked or achieve nothing.
Achieved nothing. Days which seems somehow to slip
Unproductively.
And the screen was jerking.
Okay. It's okay, Vipin. I will read from here. Okay. So,
okay.
thank you. Days which seem somehow to slip unproductively by crises which loom unexpected from nowhere. This sort of environment leads to inordinate stress and degradation of performance. It must be stopped. Okay, so now they're talking about Socrates, who was he was a very famous philosopher. I think he was a Greek philosopher. I'm not wrong, but and a lot of his work is given a lot of credit in philosophy. Okay, so they're talking about him that he was very, very cautious about using his time. He would just not waste time on activities which he thought were not important. For something as much as like somebody who came to talk to him, he asked him 3 questions like, is the news true? Is the news good, or is it useful for me? And if the answer to all this was no, he would not even talk to that person. So this is how much he valued time, because he did not want to waste his time on activities which he thought were not important for his life. Okay, so the absence of personal time management is characterized by last minute rushes to meet deadlines, meetings which are either double booked or achieve nothing, days which seem somehow to slip unproductively by, crises which loom unexpected from nowhere. So these are things that they've mentioned, which due to which there can be loss of personal management. When usually we are given a project and we are given enough time to do that project, but usually towards the beginning of that timeline, we are not doing anything. So we don't divide it, and towards the end, we are rushing to make it happen to meet the deadline. Right? We all have faced that. I'm sure in school, when you are given a project, you're given a month, first 15, 20 days, or even 25 days at times, we do nothing about the project, right? And when the last 5 days are left, then we are running everywhere. Like a headless chicken, yeah, running for the content, running for the files, everything. And then it's too stressful, right? The meetings which are double booked or achieve nothing. Like someone mentioned right now, when they go for some work and the work cannot be done. Suppose somebody books a meeting, but they're double booked and the person cannot come for the meeting. So that is a waste of time for the other person, right? Or there are meetings which do not achieve anything, that you don't achieve anything out of. That is also another hindrance in time management. Crises which loom unexpected from nowhere. This is something that everybody will face in life. There will be certain situations that will just pop up from somewhere and you will have to handle it, right? So these are things because of which your regular activities can be delayed. This sort of environment leads to inordinate stress and degradation of performance. So all these activities, it can lead to huge stress levels, and your performance will go down. Okay, so you have to manage your time accordingly. Who wants to read next? Sneha Dubey?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you switch on your camera as well?
Ma'am, from current practice,
You have to start from poor time management is often a symptom. What page are you on? We're on page 17.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, personal time management.
No, the paragraph before this. I want you all to pay attention what we are. 1 second, sorry. I want you all to pay attention where we are reading, what we are reading, okay? For the ones who don't have the module, it is on the screen. Go ahead.
Poor time management is often a symptom of overconfidence. Techniques which used to work with small projects and workloads are simply reused with large ones. But inefficiencies which were uh,
Insignificant.
insignificant in the small role are uh,
Ludicrous. Ludicrous.
ludicrous in the large. You cannot drive a motorbike like a bicycle, nor can you manage a supermarket chain like a market stall. The problem, and the payoffs for increased efficiency are all larger as your responsibility grows. You must learn to apply proper techniques or be better by those who do. Possibly, the reason time management is poorly practiced is that uh, it's so um
Seldom.
seldom forms a major part of appraisal and performance review. What many fail to forest,
Foresee.
however, is how intimately foresee, however, is how intimately it is
To the
personal
aspects which
time
do.
management has
Okay,
many
that's it.
parts.
That's it, I think. Yeah.
Which
Okay,
do?
thank you. So they're saying when somebody is really overconfident about an activity and they don't pay attention to proper planning, then this leads to poor time management because they've given an example. Suppose some you have a small business today of say one shop, okay, and tomorrow you open up a mall. So you can't apply the same principles that you have in a small business and take the same principle and do a large scale business on the same principles, because in a small scale business probably the problems that you face or the losses that you have will be minor, but same losses if you follow the exact same principles in a huge mall, they will multiply by hundred and thousands of time. So this is not doable, this is not something you should follow. But people out of overconfidence, they just feel that okay, I used to run a shop, so I know how this business works, so I'm going to open up a mall, I have the funds and I know how this all this works. But you cannot do that, right? The way, if you know how to ride a bicycle, you cannot drive a car with the same, if you don't know how to drive a car, right? Just because you know how to ride a bicycle. Okay, so things don't work like that. Okay, and we say, one second. Uh-oh, I lost the page. So you need to either make proper principles or put proper rules in place to run the new business, or you need to hire people who know how to do it. Okay. Uh, Possibly the reason time management is poorly practiced, pay a lot of attention to time management because it does not help in their appraisal of their job, of their probably increment. And so all time management is not a very important aspect that is looked into when the appraisal is done, when the increment is done, when the salaries are increased. Time management is not one of the factors which is considered in a lot of jobs. But the kind of job you all will be, you cannot afford to be late. Okay, so in our kind of job, this is something that is considered. If you are late once, you will probably get a letter of caution or warning, but next time there can be a bigger uh, problem for you guys. Okay, so probably this is true, what they've written is true for a lot of jobs. Like if you go late to a regular office by like 15-20 minutes, these are not things that are considered in your appraisals. People don't mind, but they forget that time management, if not directly considered, it affects a lot of other things that are considered for your promotion or your salary increases. Personal time management has many facets. Most managers recognize a few, but few recognize them all. There is the simple concept of keeping a well ordered diary and the related idea of planned activity. But beyond these, it is a tool for the systematic ordering of your influence on events. It underpins many other managerial skills such as effective delegation and project planning. So time management has a lot of parts basically. Okay, so something as simple as keeping a diary of what you are supposed to do is just a part of it, and a lot of managers don't realize how important they everybody knows that time management is important, but everybody does not realize how important it is and how much it can affect your organization and probably the productivity of a person. And not everybody understands this, and it forms the foundation of a lot of other skills that a person has, like delegation of duties or proper planning, which are considered to be very important. But time management is the foundation of these important skills. So that is why a lot of people don't realize how important time management is, but it affects everything else that is really important. Personal time management is a set of tools which allow you to eliminate wastage, be prepared for meetings, refuse excessive workloads, monitor project progress, allocate resource appropriate to a task's importance, ensure that long-term projects are not neglected, plan each day efficiently, plan each week effectively. So okay, we've all kind of discussed all this, that if you manage your time properly, it will help you to eliminate all the wastage, all the activities that you waste your time on. You will not be under excessive stress. Your workloads will be equally distributed, and you will allocate good time what is needed for a task. So you will not be like, so something that needs lesser time, you have like 5 hours a day, and something that should actually have more time, you're dedicating only one hour a day for that. Okay, so this will help you plan things properly and ensure that long-term projects are not neglected. And like what we spoke about, a project, suppose you get in school, time management also helps you to divide your time and plan accordingly if you have a long-term project. So you don't do all the work in the end. You divide every week, every day in a good way, okay, so that you're not stressed in the end. So that is proper time management. Since personal time management is a management process just like any other, it must be planned, monitored, and regularly reviewed. In the following sections, we will examine the basic methods and functions of personal time management. Since true understanding depends upon exercise, you will be asked to take part by looking at aspects of your own work. If you do not have time to do this right now, ask yourself why not. Okay, so this is a small exercise which they have given in the next in the coming paragraphs. I think all of you, I'll give you 5 minutes break and then we come back and discuss that exercise. Okay. Current practice, what this article is advocating is the adoption of certain practices which will give you greater control over the use and allocation of a primary resource, which is time. Before we start on the future, it is worth considering the present. This involves the simplistic task of keeping a note of how you spend your time for a suitably long period of time, say a week. I say simplistic since all you have to do is create a simple table, photocopy half a dozen copies, and carry it around with you, filling in a row every time you change an activity. After 1 week, allocate time, start as you mean to go, to reviewing this log. We are not looking here to create new categories or work to enhance efficiency, that comes later, but simply to eliminate wastage in your current practice. The average IEE charter engineer earns about £27,000 per annum, about £12.50 per hour, say £1 every 5 minutes. For how many 5-minute section of your activity would you have paid £1? The first step is a critical appraisal of how you spend your time and to question some of your habits. In your time log, identify periods of time which might have been better used. Okay, so what they're telling you to do here is you make a table, a simple table, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, and then make columns in front of it. Suppose you wake up on Monday, write Monday like this, suppose. Okay, let me just try to make one table for you. Okay, so just write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you start with the activities that you do each day. Like you wake up, suppose suppose you exercise. Okay, then you change the activity. Suppose you have breakfast. So this is the change of activity. Then you write the next activity. Then you go. You spend time with your family. Then you study. Then you have a class. So all as the moment you change the activity, you put it down in the table. Okay. Then you do this for a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, do it for the entire week. Okay. After a week, what you do is you start allocating time for every activity that you think should be the amount of time you should spend. Suppose you think I should at least exercise for 45 minutes every day. So write 45 minutes. I should only spend like 30 to 40 minutes on my breakfast. So write that. Okay. So when you do this, after 1 week, when you allocate time, now on everyday basis, we are not trying to put in new activities for you to learn or enhance your skills. We are just concentrating on the present activities that you do right now. Okay. So we are not telling you to do something new, try a new activity here. So just what you're doing right now, that schedule you write. After 1 week, you allocate time for every activity. Then this becomes a reference table for you. Okay. Because this is what you've planned. I should spend 45 minutes on exercise. I should spend, say, 40 minutes on breakfast. Then I should spend 2 hours for studying. Then I have a 2 hours class. Then I have this, and this much 8 hours of sleep I need. Then this becomes your reference table. Now, when you start with your day-to-day activity, you know exactly where you're wasting time. I should have given 45 minutes of exercise, but I'm only exercising for 20 minutes. I should have studied for 2 hours, but I'm only studying for, say, half an hour. Okay. So now you get to know what are your time wastages. Because you were not studying, you were on your phone, you were going through Instagram stories, or you're watching Netflix or whatever. So these are your time wastages, right? Are you understanding that? Can we all try and follow that for 1 week? It would be a fun activity. This is for yourself. I'm not going to mark right or wrong on that. This is for your self-learning. You will find out what are your time wasters, and how much time are you wasting on that. The time you could have probably used for spending time with your family, you are wasting that on your phone. Or probably where you could have sharpened your skills, you are wasting that just gossiping with someone. Okay? So we can try and follow that for the next 1 week. And after 1 week, I'll check with you. Then you allocate time to those activities that you do in a day. Fine? There are various sources of waste. Sorry. The most common are social, telephone calls, friends dropping by, conversations around the coffee machine. It would be foolish to eliminate all non-work related activity. We all need a break. But if it's a choice between chatting to Harry in the afternoon and meeting the next pay-related deadline, your time log will show you if this is a problem and you might like to do something about it before your boss does. Okay, so when you have this time log, you know exactly. So you need to watch Netflix for a break. Okay, you need to talk to your friends on the phone. All that is also very important. You cannot be, you can't just wake up, exercise, eat, study, then study, and then sleep again. That is not how a human body works, right? We all want to have fun in between. But too much time spending on the phone is a wastage. We all know that, right? So what this exercise will do, it will help you spot the activities you are wasting a lot of time on. Okay. And also if you have something important, like I suppose you're given a project and you've set a deadline for that in the coming week and you're not adhering to that deadline, that means you're wasting time on something else. So then you have to prioritize what is more important. Is talking to my friend right now important, or tomorrow I have to submit a report that is more important? So when you have it written down, you can exactly see in front of you that, okay, I am wasting time right now. I had dedicated 2 hours for this project and I'm not doing it. So you know where you're wasting time. In a time log, look at each work activity and decide objectively how much time each was worth to you, and compare that with the time you actually spent on it. An afternoon spent polishing an internal memo into a Pulitzer Prize-winning piece of provocative prose is waste. An hour spent debating the leaving present of a colleague is waste. A minute spent sorting out the paper clips is waste, unless relaxation. This type of activity will be reduced naturally by managing your own time, since you will now not allocate time to the trivial. Specifically, if you have a task to do, decide beforehand how long it should take and work to that deadline, then move on to the next task. So this is exactly what we've already spoken. That when you have a proper timetable, you know exactly where you're wasting time. You will not waste time on things that are not important. Okay? And you will probably be more productive because of that. Another common source of waste stems from delaying work, which is unpleasant, by finding distractions which are less important or unproductive. So this is a very, all of us do this. When there's an activity which we don't want to do, we always procrastinate. We say we'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it day after. And we find other things to do in the meantime which are not so important. We just give excuses. Oh, I have to do this, so I'll do this important work. Tomorrow I'll do this. Okay, so this is procrastination, when you're just delaying on a certain project or activity that is important. So this is another wastage of time. This is a big wastage of time. Okay. Check your log to see if you have tasks are being delayed simply because they are dull or difficult. Time is often wasted in changing between activities. For this reason, it is useful to group similar tasks together, thus avoiding the startup delay of each. The time log will show you where these savings can be made. You may want then to initiate a routine which deals with these on a fixed but regular basis. So usually when you change from one activity to the other, we always take a break in between. We waste a little time here and then we waste a little time there, or setting up the new activity. So usually what happens is, if you club similar activities together, it will help you save more time. So this is a little more complicated for people probably who are working on a particular project or something, but it can be applied to your daily life to a certain extent. Okay, so you don't have to go really deep in making like a strict schedule, but just see what is more important for you and write down times. Okay, and then you can compare how much time I had dedicated and how much time have I used for this activity. Basically, it is just a little planner for your day. Doing subordinates work is another kind of wastage of time. When you're doing things that you're not supposed to do, probably it is somebody else's job and you are doing it because it's easier that way, right? Having considered what is complete waste, we now turn to what is merely inappropriate. Often it is simpler to do the job yourself. Using the stamp machine to frank your own letters ensures they leave by the next post. Writing the missing summary in the latest progress report from your junior is more pleasant than sending it back, and it lets you choose the emphasis. Rubbish. Large gains can be made by assigning secretarial duties to secretaries. They regularly catch the next post. They type a lot faster than you. Your subordinates should be told about the missing section and told how and why to slant it. If you have a task which could be done by a subordinate, use the next occasion to start training him or her to do it instead of doing it yourself. You will need to spend more time monitoring the task thereafter, but far less than doing it yourself. So there are some people who don't like to explain things to others. Rather, they will say, instead of spending time in explaining it to the person who's supposed to do it, let me just do it. It's easier that way. But that is not a good practice, because there are certain things people don't like pointing out mistakes. Some people are like that. They just like to be nice to everybody. So if there's a junior who's given a project report, they instead of telling him about the mistakes that he's made, they will just do it themselves. Okay, but this is not a right practice. It is just wrong, because there are things that you have to tell them to do. If everybody does what they're supposed to do, your work area or your work will be more productive. Everybody will be more productive. If you do everything that your secretary is supposed to do, then every job is in place because of a reason. There are people who are right for that job because they are good at it. A secretary probably is faster in typing than the boss is. And if the boss thinks that, let me just finish it, let me just do it myself, then you're just wasting time, because the secretary is not doing anything during that time and you are wasting time because you're slower. and you are missing on other things that you should be doing during this time, right? So everybody should, as a senior, as a leader, you have to delegate work to the people who have to do it, instead of thinking that I will do it. Let me not waste time in explaining it to the juniors. Okay? Doing the work of others, a major impact upon your work can be the tendency to help others with theirs. Now, in the spirit of an open and harmonious work environment, it is obviously desirable that you should be willing to help out. But check your work log and decide how much time you spend on your work and how much time you spend on others. For instance, if you spend a morning checking the grammar and spelling in the training material related to your last project, then that is a waste. Publications should do the proofreading. That is their job. They are better at it than you. You should deal at the technical level. So this is also almost the similar thing that we spoke before this. When you do things that others are supposed to do, right? You are there for certain job, a particular job, and there are other people for the other work. If you're doing everybody's work, are you helping them, which is required in a team, right? Everybody should help each other, but you have to pay attention to how much time are you spending on your own task and how much time you are spending on helping someone else. Okay, understood? So you have to pay attention to all this. Like, you have to delegate work to people who are supposed to do it. Then there are 8 success secrets from motivational experts. Dhwaja, would you like to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
8 success secrets from motivational experts. The views on success of many of the nation's top motivational speakers and authors can be summarized into 8 success secrets. These ideas were taken from interview with 15 of nation's top motivational speakers and others, including motivational speaker Brian Tracy,
Go ahead.
authors Les Brown and Dr.
Wayne
Dyer.
Sales motivator
Mike Ferry. Seminar leader
Patricia
Fripp. And Chicken Soup authors Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen. This is an effort to study how successful people think and uncover what drives them. If you truly understand their belief system, levels of commitment and positive attitudes toward life and integrate this way of thinking into your own belief system, you should be able to succeed at anything you put your mind to. These 8 secrets
Okay, you can stop.
are...
Okay. That's it. Thank you. So, success secrets from motivational experts. So now they've narrowed down to 8 points. 8 points that they've taken up from interviews with motivational speakers, which are, some of them are book writers and seminar leaders, and with their interviews, they've narrowed down 8 points which are important for success in your life. Okay, which is: take 100% responsibility for your life, live your life on purpose, be willing to pay the price for your dreams, stay focused, become an expert in your field, write out a plan for achieving your goals, never give up, and don't delay. More or less, we have already spoken about a lot of these points earlier as well, because the time management, leadership, they all go hand in hand. Okay, so but we will elaborate them a little bit. So first is, take 100% responsibility for your life. In a society where people blame everything from their parents to the government for their failure to get ahead in life, these men and women refused to buy into the mentality that says, I could succeed if only it weren't for. So we all do that sometimes, or we know people who always want to blame others for what is happening in their life. You know, the government should do this, or I wish my parents would have done this. I wish they had more money, or they would have sent me to this school. So, but these, when they're talking about these motivational speakers, they're saying because they refused to believe in such things, they are where they are right now. They are successful. So you have to take 100% responsibility. You know, what is happening in my life is because of me, and I am the only person who can do what has to be done to make it right. I cannot blame it on others. You know, she didn't do that. That's why I'm here today. So you have to take 100% responsibility. They realized that when you, Dhwaja, can you switch off your microphone? Thank you. They realized when you say someone or something outside of yourself is preventing you from succeeding, you are giving away your power to that someone or something. You are saying you have more control over my life than I do. Successful people don't buy into this victim thinking. Rather, their personal credo is, if it's to be, it's up to me. Okay. So now for successful people, they don't blame things on others. Okay. Because if they're blaming for everything, they're blaming someone else, that means that other person has more control over my life than I do. If I keep saying, oh, you know, this happened because the other person, she was too clever and she took the job that I deserved, but probably I lacked somewhere. And if I don't take that responsibility on myself, then I will not be able to be where I have to be, right? If I keep blaming it on others, I'm giving them more control over my life than I have. And the mantra that a lot of successful people follow is, if it's to be, it's up to me. So if it has to happen, then I have to do it. It's up to me. Okay. Example of Les Brown. Consider Les Brown, abandoned by his parents at birth and labeled educable mentally retarded by his school teachers. He had every reason for giving up on himself and his dreams. But when a high school teacher told him someone else's opinion of you does not have to become your reality, Brown realized in that moment that his future lay in his own hands. He went on to become a state legislator and author, and today earns $20,000 per hour as one of America's top motivational speakers. What Brown understood was that there are certain things in your life you can't control, such as nature, the past, and other people, but there are things you absolutely can control, such as your thoughts and your actions. Taking 100% responsibility for your life is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. So they've given an example, and we know a lot of people in the world, especially Paralympics, Olympics has just finished, and we know people with so much disabilities, they compete and they practice and they work hard to be where they are, right? And we will always find a reason. A lot of people will always, I couldn't do this because I had to pay more attention to another task. But there are examples in the world who have proven all these things to be wrong. Okay. There are people with inabilities who excel at things that no one could have ever imagined. Have you heard of Stephen Hawking? He is a physicist. His body was completely paralyzed. He could not talk, and he was awarded with a lot of awards. Okay, so if he could do it, everybody has that caliber, but we just don't use it. Okay, so we need to take that responsibility in life. Second is, live your life on purpose. Perhaps what separates these motivational superstars from others more than anything is that they live their lives on purpose. That is, they are doing what they believe they were put here to do. So we all need to have a purpose in life. If we are just living without a purpose, we're not really living. We need to have something. I want to do this job. Why? Because this is the purpose. I want more money because I want to help someone, or I want to do something for the minorities, I want to do something with the people who don't get enough opportunities. I want to excel at the business because I want to give other people a job opportunity, a way to earn bread and butter, right? So you want to be a crew is okay, but you need to live with a purpose. You need to have a purpose in life. Okay, so example they've used is for Dyer has purpose. Professional public speakers will tell you that the time they feel most alive is when they are on stage, connecting with an audience, says Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer. Having a sense of, purpose in your life is the most important element of becoming a fully functional person. The difference between living your life on purpose and not living it on purpose is like night and day. The latter consists of simply getting through the week and the least amount of problems while expending those enough effort to get by. Okay, so another example they've taken is of Wayne Dyer, and he says that he feels the most alive when he is on the stage. He's a motivational speaker, and because he thinks that is for him, that is the purpose of his life, he feels the most alive when he's on the stage. Okay, so when we all know what our purpose is and we work towards that, that is the moment that you will value the most in your life. It is not suddenly one day everybody knows their purpose. For some, it really takes time and experiences for them to know what their purpose in life is. Okay, but the more you think and work on it, the easier it becomes for you to decide what your purpose in life is. Like some people really like animals, and so that is how they start adopting street animals or taking care of them, and they enjoy doing it because for them it becomes the purpose of their life. Okay, so everybody has their own purpose. It doesn't have to be only always like being something noble that I want to do something. Maybe for you, earning money is because you want to make your family happy, give them what you can, right? Even that could be a purpose. Because when you give something to your family, you feel that satisfaction and happiness. Probably that is your purpose. Okay? Do the job now, but when you live your life on purpose, your main concern is doing the job right. You love what you do and it shows. Your conviction is as evident as it is persuasive. And you will find that people want to do business with you because they sense your commitment to giving your all. Okay, so when you are committed towards your job or your work, others can see that commitment and they would probably want to work with you because they can see that you are dedicated towards your work, you are committed towards your work, and this kind of pulls them towards you, and they want to work with you. Instead, now what happens after a certain time when somebody becomes successful and is really dedicated, instead of you going out and looking for people want to work for you. They would approach you, I want to work with you because they also can see how good you are at your job and you really love your job. Mike Ferry found purpose. How do you live your life on purpose? By finding a cause you believe in and creating a business around it. For example, Mike Ferry, who was once a top salesperson selling audio tape programs, believed realtors needed help developing sales skills. So he started the Mike Ferry Organization, a seminar and training company for the real estate industry. Today, he earns more than $10 million dollars a year from seminar and product sales. Like Ferry, once you get your life on purpose and focus on providing value for others, the money will take care of itself. So Mike Ferry, he was a salesperson and he realized that in real estate, basically, people don't have the right skills. So he made it a purpose of his life to educate them and train them. And he opened up an organization which was called the Mike Ferry Organization, which would train all these people to develop and enhance their skills. Okay. So when he made this his purpose of life and he worked towards it, he did not think he will earn $10 million in a year. But when he worked towards his purpose, the money will just roll in. Okay, when you work towards your purpose, the money will be a part of it anyways. Third, be willing to pay the price for your dreams. Wanting a big house, a luxury car, or $1 million in the bank is all very nice, but the problem is that practically everyone wants these things. The question then is, are you willing to pay the price to get them? This is one of the major differences between the successful and the unsuccessful. Successful men and women find out what it's going to cost to make their dream come true. Then they find a way to make it happen. Most importantly, they don't complain about the work it takes to achieve their dreams. Les Brown says he has a callus on his ear. Why? When I decided to get into speaking, I had no credentials, no reputation, no credibility, and no experience. So I had to call a lot of people. Brown explains, I called over 100 people a day in and day out, to ask for an opportunity to speak to their group. This callus is worth several $1 million. You can get practically anything you want in life if you are willing to pay the price. Okay? So a lot of times we have dreams. Everybody wants a big, nice house in a nice place, a big car, good branded things, and everybody wants a life like that, right? Especially when we look at these people who have all this, we feel, wow, they have all this. You know, I wish I had it. But you have to work towards this dream. That person probably worked a lot, and we don't know about his journey. But we only see his flashy car and bungalow. So if you have a dream is good. You should have a dream, but you should be able to work towards your dream. Are you ready to compromise on so many things to live your dream? For a crew, you have a flight at 3 o'clock in the morning. You are probably waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, whereas your friend is sleeping at home. Are you ready to give in that time? You know, waking up in the middle of the night, getting ready, going for the flight, and it might happen like 3 or 4 days in a row. So are you ready to do that are you ready to put in that work for your dream? So you have to decide if you're ready to do all that. Only if you do that work, you will achieve what you've dreamt of. Okay? So every dream requires a lot of work, and you should always consider that when you think of that dream. You should stay focused. Every day we are bombarded with hundreds of tasks, messages, and people all competing for our time. This is why the ability to focus on your goal is so critical to achieving it. Focusing requires giving up some things in the present, because you know the time invested will pay off big time down the road. So we all have distractions in our life, okay? We want to learn something, we want to achieve something, but today my friend has come, or today I'm going out with my friend. Let me just watch one episode of this series. You know, it won't take much time, half an hour, 40 minutes, and then I'll get. So we all have different distractions in our life. But then you have to decide, and you have to come up with a way to focus on the task that you think is more important. You might have to compromise on a lot of things, probably spending that extra time with your friend, or maybe you can't attend some function or something, maybe anything. So you have to be focused on what is important in your life, and not let these distractions distract you from the main task. So focus is very important. So Chicken Soup Efforts. I don't know if you all have heard of this book called Chicken Soup for the Soul. It was one of the best sellers. And so they're talking about the authors of that book. When Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen compiled their first Chicken Soup for the Soul book, they were turned down by 30 publishers. But instead of giving up, they stayed focused on their goal. We did 3 to 4 radio or newspaper or magazine interview a day, 5 days a week for a whole year. Canfield recalls, in every interview, they talked about why the country needed this book, and now more than ever. Eventually, a small publisher called Health Communications Incorporated decided to take a chance and publish the book. It not only became #1 bestseller, but also hashed an entire series of chicken soup books that have sold more than 10 million copies. That's the power of staying focused on your goal. Can give you, okay? So imagine 30 people reject your book. Most of the people would have probably given up by then, right? But they kept working on it. probably worked even harder now. And that is how their book became the bestseller. If they would have given up after like the 10th or the 15th or the 30th publisher after being rejected, they would have never reached where they are today, right? So probably they worked even harder after they were rejected, and that's why it became, somebody published their book and it became a bestseller. So you have to focus on your dreams. Focus on dreams. Spend as much of your day as you can focusing on achieving your goals and dreams. Every day ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now bringing me closer to my goal? If it's not, do something that will. Focusing is like any habit. The more you do, and the easier it gets. So the more time any practice, anything you practice on a daily basis, it will become a habit and it will become your nature. So the more time you focusing doesn't mean you're only thinking about doing something. You have to work towards it, right? Don't just keep focusing on thinking, I want this, I want this, I want this. Rather, what I'm doing, is that helping me to get this? That is the question you have to ask yourself, okay? Become an expert in your field. One striking factor about all 15 motivational speakers I interviewed is how seriously they take their profession. Their drive to be the best at what they do is phenomenal. They'll do almost anything if they think it will help improve their speaking skills. So these are all motivational speakers that they're talking about, and they're already good at their jobs, but they still take their work really serious. Okay, so you really have to be dedicated to your work. Nobody else can do that for you. You have to be dedicated yourself. Fripp took classes. For example, Patricia Fripp, who speaks to Fortune 500 executives on how to become more successful, took a comedy workshop and hired a private speech coach because she wanted to improve her speaking ability. Fripp did this after she had already been named one of the 10 most electrifying speakers in North America by Meetings and Conventions magazine. To Fripp, being one of the best simply wasn't good enough. She wanted to be the best she could be. So she was already one of the best. She was already awarded by as one of the 10 electrifying speakers. But in spite of that, she did not stop there. Just because she thought she was good at something, it doesn't mean that she cannot learn more about that, right? Even after being one of the 10 good speakers, she still hired people to teach her new things. So every day you will keep learning. If you think, I speak well, so I don't need to work on this at all. I'll use this time for fun and relaxing, and I'll do the other activities. So you don't have to compare it with someone, but just try to compete with yourself. Today, what I am, tomorrow, I want to be a better person than that, right? I want to be better than what I am today. So compete with yourself and not with someone else. If today I'm really good at reading, you don't stop there. Tomorrow, try and do better. There's always room for little more, always, okay? I think we should stop here. And in the end, we always have a question answer round, which nobody asks. Nobody uses this time. No one has questions ever. But I will still give you a chance in case you all have some questions. Please go ahead. I want you all to start writing that practice of writing one word every day. And since we have this module, it's easier to pick up a word because there will be one word probably you can find. Just one word a day, it's not much. Make a notebook where you write this word and you write the meaning and try using this in a sentence. Okay? So once you start using this word again and again, it will just come naturally to you. You'll just know when to use it. Okay? So then after some time, you will not have to put extra effort to use that word. Okay? So I want all of you to do that. Make a notebook, one word a day. Okay? Okay. So anybody has any questions? Everybody's looking here and there, up and down. Nothing.
Ma'am.
Yes, who's this?
I want to asking.
Yes, Raja.
I want to know your time management.
What
How
do you
to
want to know
manage
about?
your work.
About my time management, do you mean?
Yes.
I didn't get the question. I'm sorry. Can you just?
I said that I want to know your time management. How to manage your time in all cases.
In all cases, see, there's no one rule which applies to all here. Okay, something that works for me might not work for you. Something that works for Tiana might not work for Vipin. So you all have to, this is a trial, this is all done on a hit. You try and then you come up with a procedure that works for you. Okay, for me, if I think I wake up and I spend too much time on something, instead of doing this, I think I should do this. Just an example, okay, something like that. So like that table that I told you to make is also that will also help you manage your time better. So that is an activity which will help you. Not everybody might not benefit. You might not benefit from it as much as probably Sky would, or Sky might not benefit from it as much as you would, right? So you have to find ways how to deal with things for you, what works for you personally. Okay, not spending too much of time on distractions and getting your time done, making a schedule, writing a to-do list. For today, this is my list, this is what I have to follow. So these are certain things that you can follow and then decide what works for you. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Just a second. Yeah, I think after this module, we have the interview skills, which I think will be a lot of interest for all of you because everybody wants to know what happens in the interview, what are you asked. But there are certain things that probably some of the answers, some of your questions will be answered in the next module. Okay, and this module is almost done. We'll probably finish in a few minutes tomorrow, and after that we go on to interview skills, and I'm sure you all will enjoy it. And you should have a lot of questions, I'm hoping, because this is something that would interest you. Because so far, whatever questions I've got mostly is about interviews. Everybody wants to go to the interview directly. Right? But you have to work for that before that. This is all the work that you're doing to appear for the interview. Okay? And I want you all to go, once you start going for interviews, go for as much interviews as you can go. And even if it doesn't work out for you, even if you get a rejection, you should not feel demotivated by it. Just take the learnings that you can get from that interview. Okay, probably this is what happened. And the interviewer will not tell you why they did not select you. You have to do a self-study and probably come out with a learning from that interview, why it did not work. Okay, because they don't entertain, usually interviewers, they don't have so much of time to tell individually everybody why they were not accepted. But it is for you to learn from your mistakes. It's not a mistake, it's just sometimes they're looking for something and sometimes they're looking for something else. Okay, but try and appear for as many interviews as you can once you're told to start appearing for interviews, because that practical knowledge that you get from attending an interview, you will not get from sitting in a class. Okay, but you have to prepare to reach there. So this is that preparation for that. Okay, is there anything else you want to know? Nothing? Anything you want to ask about flying? Anything that you've heard? I also want you all to, instead of, like all of you said, you waste a lot of time on social media and internet. I want you to start dedicating some time to do a little research for your job. Okay, whether it's any airline or it's just reading about cabin crew or reading about aircrafts, because this is what you'll be, or reading about customer service, because these are all things that will help you in the longer run, even after you get a job. If you all really say, I really want to be a crew, I really want to be a ground staff, I want to be a dispatch, whatever. So you all should start dedicating some time of your day just reading about it. It's good to be knowledgeable. Okay, just what you are being taught in the class is not enough, is never enough. Your personal effort is the most important. I can tell you about 10 things, but until you do it yourself, nobody can help you. Okay, so communication, knowledge, all this is important. Reading up, even if it's nothing, just about grooming, probably you start from there. Okay, that probably is your interest. If that is your interest, you start from there. If you like knowing about aircrafts, start reading about aircrafts. Okay, so whatever your interest is, so that it's not boring for you. Fine. So I think that's all for today. And probably you can think of questions that you want to ask tomorrow. Okay, so whenever something pops up in your mind, you write it down. I want you all to ask more questions, because it's not going to work only I'm talking and you are not talking. I want all of us to talk. Okay, then you have a good day ahead. Enjoy your time and make it productive.